Mute off. That's good. Is that how it's supposed to be?
The video is going to be slightly off, how it angles and who it's viewing at, because y'all are using the PA system. Because you're using the PA system, because you have so many people.
Okay, yeah.
And our speaker is not going to have a microphone. We're getting feedback from that mic.
Yeah, should be. Should be okay.
These two systems are not designed to work with each other. They're not designed to work with each other. Because what's going to happen is your audio is going to come from the speaker. The camera is going to focus on this way as opposed to
Turn that around there, straight down that way.
it's still directional, so it's still going to point. That camera is going to point to where the audio is coming from. I'll be on screen.
Probably need it.
Big project.
Spot for next year? Yes. Yeah. Get ready.
Already?
Yes, sir.
It is 10:03, Monday, the 29th day of August, 2022. I make a motion that the special meeting of the Navarro County Commissioners Court come to order.
Second. Motion made by Commissioner Olson, seconded by Commissioner Moore. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And we are in session. Next, everyone, please stand for opening prayer. I want to ask Commissioner Grant to lead us in prayer today.
Lord, thank you for this day and for the many blessings you give us each and every day. We thank you for all these people that came today to speak let their voices be heard in our government process. We ask that you keep them all healthy and get them safe home today. We ask that you send some more rain to us tomorrow. We have chances all this week, and we look forward to that. We ask that you just be with us, help us make the best decisions for our citizens and for our employees, and always look to you for your guidance and wisdom. Keep us all healthy and safe throughout the rest of this week. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. All right. Okay. Number 4 on our agenda is public hearing on the tax rate. And there's been a number of people who have signed up, so.
I got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
We normally put the burn ban on here and we didn't. And I had several calls over the weekend asking about that. Can we discuss it or we have to wait till the next one?
It's not on here. So.
Yeah, not on here.
Okay.
Just getting it on. James. That's you. Okay, you just got a K and a T. That's about all I'm seeing. You want to come over here and speak from this podium? It'd be great.
Actually, I just have a couple of quick questions.
Okay,
One is, I'd like to understand how you came about this percentage rate increase. And the second question is, if this increase goes into effect, that amount of money that comes in, where do you specifically, where is it going to be spent? And,
well, we don't normally answer back when we're doing public address, but since this is a public hearing, I'll make that exception. We didn't come up with what you read in the paper, let's put it that way. Ours is very different from what y'all read in the newspaper. And as far as going into it any further, I'm just gonna leave it at that, and we may get to that in a little bit, okay? Number 2 is Patrick Patterson. Hey, Pat.
I'm speaking in opposition to tax rate increase. On top of the obscene appraisal increase, mine went up 100% on my home. And I protest this, I do every time. Adding an increase on top of that is just too much. I think anything beyond a no revenue tax rate increase is unacceptable. The city is able to cut their total cost, and I think the county should be able to at least break even.
Number 3 is.
Judge.
Balut,
They're
yes, sir.
saying they can't hear you. Would you move the microphone closer to you? Outside.
Hello. Y'all hear me out there now? Okay, thank you.
What's your name, Mel?
Thelma Baloo from Frost.
Velma?
Oh, Bill.
Navarro County will be getting more property taxes due to the increase in property value. So I totally oppose this property tax hike. Please do all possible to be careful with spending the money to avoid increasing the amount of dollars you take from ordinary and poor citizens who are already struggling to survive with all cost increasing, but their income is the same. Those with retirement Social Security are not seeing any additional income. Just remember, please, that you are here to serve all the citizens, not just the wealthy. They have no way to get more money to pay higher taxes, which will ruin their lives. Please pray and do what God wants you to do. He will make you know what is right and what is wrong to serve all the citizens that you represent.
Thank you, Velma. Bobby Barnes. There she is.
I don't think it'd be out of order, Judge, because we have one of those speakers, Max up here.
I don't think we have one. I mean, we could just move one of these up there.
Wireless.
Maybe. No, they're not well, are they? Yeah, they're wireless. Yeah, we can move it up there.
There's one.
We have one that was just getting feedback.
I think they were getting feedback.
Would you get there?
Speak loud.
There you go.
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. My name is Dottie Barnes. I'm going to speak from the Social Security part of people. I get a little Social Security. They take a quarter of it back to pay for my Plan F. And so that leaves me 3/4 of a little bit. And granted, I retired from my job, so I don't have a lot to add into that. Food and gas already, it's gone. So adding, the increase, as he said, the increase in the property taxes rate, and now you're going to increase more. I want you to remember, lawyers, when they need money, they up their fees. And business people, when they do not have enough money, they cut expenses. And I know it's tough. There's a lot of things that are county needed. But you have got to go through this with a fine-tooth comb and cut expenses, because that's what we hired you to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kathy Melton.
Kathy Melton from Corsicana, Texas. We did, in Navarro County Appraisal Office did raise the value of our properties. Some of us got hit pretty hard this time because they hadn't been done for a while. So we do have that tax increase. And now the Navarro County is wanting, of course, some of us are frozen on some of these taxes. But with the inflation that's going to the sky, a lot of people don't have extra income with their social security and retirement plans like some do. Your gas, your groceries, your food, your rent, your utilities, and when they go up, the landlords have to go up on the rent. I know that one apartment complex here has had a $500 a month increase starting September 1st. So that is really rough on the young people. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Brady Melton. Brady here. Brady.
I want to check outside.
Brady Melton. Brady Melton.
I doubt it. He's going to speak.
Okay. Well, his name's on the
We'll
list,
go
so
back
I had to read it off. Terry, is it Loftus?
Yeah.
I am Terry Loftus. Good morning, Commissioner. Good morning, Judge. Good morning,
Morning.
everybody. I put my comments in online, but I felt obligated to come down here and say them in person. I'm opposed to the tax increase, even though it's kind of a foregone conclusion. You don't even have to vote. It's just going to happen. But I want to say, as far as property taxes, everything's kind of gone up. Mine has gone up by 4 times in the past 3 years or so. And I think everyone, a majority in this room, majority of landowners on fixed incomes, we're retired now. And so all this thing is going to creep up, even if you've got a homestead in it, it's going to come up. And so at the same time, we're giving tax abatements on new companies coming in and these sort of things, and considering those. You need to consider next time this comes around, it's going to come around every time. You can't vote no, because it's an undue burden on retired citizens here in Navarro County, what we're paying on them, and looking at this being the place we're going to spend the rest of our life. Think about that next time.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
for your time.
Thank you.
Thomas McNutt.
I'm with you.
Gentlemen, I consider myself very, very blessed to consider each one of you a friend. Okay. And I think we are all blessed that I'm looking at a group of honest men. Okay. And you can clap at that. I think it's great. And I hope you commissioners appreciate the fact that I called you individually. Okay. I hope you appreciate it. I certainly appreciate you taking my call to talk about this in private. And I'll keep those conversations, between us. And I told you I was going to come today. People know the costs are up. You don't have to tell them. They know that. And I'm acutely aware of the property tax system for, when I ran for the legislature before, I became very, very educated on it. And the school district and the city and the other taxing entities, the college, they are also dealing with the same system, and they've chosen to come down, okay, more than the state requires them. And so, Judge, maybe there's some math things in the paper that you disagree with. But what is true is when I talk to all 4 of you, you agree that y'all are going up as much as the state will allow without facing the people in an election. And that's what I have an issue with. So I want to be empathetic to your position. And here's my ask. My ask is this. I think you can go one of 2 directions today. You can dig your heels in, be indignant, and just move on forward. Or what I ask you to do is perhaps just take a more humble approach. Okay, and that's not an accusation, but a more humble approach. And we'd like you to do the no new revenue rate. Y'all are right now doing the most allowable by the state possible. I'd ask you to just find somewhere in the middle and just step this way, the way of the crowd. And I think everybody would really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Chris Woolsey.
So I wanted to hand this out to y'all, just so y'all know the numbers that I am looking at and that I am talking about before we start. All right, well, thank y'all for what you do. Like Tom said, I can definitely empathize with the costs that y'all are facing, and the increases across the board, just in operating expenses. So I wanted to talk just on the public hearing on tax increase that was published. And so these are the numbers that I have been going off of. So if you want to look at that second page, that second page compares 2021 versus 2022. And so there is a chance that we may have an error in the public notice, but I want to make sure that we are all on the same page, and that whatever y'all are voting on today, that we are very clear about which rate that is. So you can see in 2021, the tax rate was 0.4922. In 22, the tax rate is 0.5173. Which reflects a 5.09% increase in the rate. If you look down 2 columns, tax on average homestead, $658 in 2021, and in 2022, it was $780 under the proposed rate, which would reflect an 18.5% increase. The total tax levy on all property at the bottom, 19.2 million in 21, and then 25.5 million in 22, which would reflect a 32.26% increase in tax levy. And so what I want to make sure that we are doing today is we are talking county only rate versus the combined county rate. So one of two things is happening here. Either number one, what y'all are voting on is the voter approved rate for the county only, which as published, it tells me that's what you're doing. And that would be the tax increase that's reflected here. Number two scenario is that there is an error in this public hearing notice, and that it is comparing last year's county only rate versus this year's combined county rate. So before this vote is cast, I want to make sure that we are all on the same page about what exactly rate is being voted on. Like Thomas expressed to you, I would also encourage you to vote for the no new revenue rate. That is the rate that collects the same number of dollars from the same people as last year, and it reflects the rate that is not a tax increase. Any number that is above the no new revenue rate is a tax increase. So I would ask you, if the numbers you see in this public notice are not the numbers that you've been working with, and these do not reflect reality, I would ask you to table this rate and make sure that everyone here gets on the same page. If these numbers are wrong and it's not going to be an 18.5% increase, I want to make sure everybody knows that. I want to make sure that it is accurate information that is being published. But when this is the official public notice, that's the number that we have to go off of, right? And that's the number that will ultimately go into the budget. So that is my ask of y'all, is to, number one, vote for the no new revenue rate. And then number two, let's make sure the numbers are correct and that everyone is on the same page about what rate is being voted on. I don't want to get upset for something that we have bad intel on, right? I don't want y'all to look bad because nobody knew, we weren't all on the same page, right? I've always tried to reach out and work with the county on things. Y'all have been very good at working with us and things in the city. And I want this to be another opportunity for us to work together as well. If you see these and you know that this is incorrect information that we've been using, I'm fine with being wrong, right? I just want the rate that's finally published to be the correct one, and I want it to reflect the no new revenue rate for lower. Thank y'all.
All right, thanks, sir. All right, next person who signed this, I really can't tell what, you sign your name like I signed mine, kind of fast and quick. I can't tell if this is Tim Marquin. Please tell me your name.
Lewis.
Oh. Okay, thank you.
Lewis Merrick Jr. That's what that is.
Gotcha.
And I'm here to support all these other people who have come to voice a negative opinion on increasing the taxes. I appreciate their endeavor to try to explain to you our situation as taxpayers and what the appraisals have done to us and what we are worried about. And there's nobody showing they care one way or the other. And I would like to help support them. So that's the only reason I'm here. So they have done their homework. I haven't done mine. I don't intend to. But I'm asking you to make sure that what you spend is going to be what you were elected for. And not to expand it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. Gary, is it McQuinn?
McEwen.
McEwen, thank you.
Hi, I'm Gary McEwen. I'm a new resident of Streetman. I agree with everything that people have been saying, but what I'd like to address is what you do with the money. I'm a new resident. About a month ago off County Road 2370, I saw a gentleman throwing loose gravel in a box. It didn't last until it rained. It was gone within a couple weeks. There are so many potholes, so many problems. I'd like to see the money that I do spend, spent wisely. I don't want to do something 20, 30 times wrong when we could do it right one time. So spend the money wisely.
Thanks, sir. Nikki Price.
She stepped outside. Big Price.
Uh-huh.
Big Heath Price. Yes, ma'am. You want us to come back to you? If you're still recovering, you want to come back to you? Back in the back? Okay. She had a little issue.
Okay. Scott Price.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
I have to echo what everybody here has been saying, especially with the fixed incomes. Very valid points. Just two things that I have to say. We remember back in 1776, this country was basically founded and we revolted against high taxes. Taxation with no representation. And I guess the second point I want to make is, when is enough enough? Between the federal government, our local governments, everything that's happening in the world today, as everybody said, we're all on fixed incomes, or a good part of us. When is enough enough? We need to learn to do things more wisely with the money we have. I'm sure as in your households, you have a budget. And you can't spend above that budget. You can only spend what's in your means. That's where we all are right now. I just recently moved to Texas, bought a house 2 years ago. Now already I'm afraid of, will I lose my house because I can't afford taxes?
Thanks, sir.
Tim?
Levin. Levin. Somebody got name, first name's Levin or Kevin or something like that. I can't make out the last name, maybe Tanner or I don't know. Can't read it. Reading is really a good idea, and I preach in my courtroom all the time. Print. Don't sign your name, print, then we can read it.
Let's go on, and if they've not been called yet, that's who it is.
Floyd Rowland.
I'm not a public speaker, I'm sorry. I don't know my name.
You just wanted to have your name on the list? All right, thank you,
There
sir.
you go.
Mike Armstrong.
Commissioners.
Morning.
My name is Mike Armstrong. I'm a
lifetime resident here in Navarro County, and it's hard to reflect on what a lot of people have already said, but I think in whole, we the American people we're being taxed beyond our means, without a doubt. And it's not, in my opinion, it's not as much as we do get taxes. The taxes don't help the people that actually need it. We have senior citizens, we have, I'm fortunate, I'm blessed. But we have people that do live on fixed incomes, people that they get nothing. They get a social security increase once every so often. They won't even buy a loaf of bread. And it's not as much as the taxes that we get, it's where the money goes. And I think in this country, speaking for everybody, looking around this room, people are tired of funding programs that benefit lazy, worthless people and taxpayer money. Things, instead of raising taxes, we should be cutting everything. Put people back to work, get them off their lazy butts, and we would need the tax people as much as we do. That's all I'm saying.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Vicky Matthews.
I agree with everything I've heard, but I also want to make a point. We're talking about the older people, Social Security, a set budget. But I just want to say, as a school teacher, I see a lot, or previous school teacher, I see a lot of young families struggling also. They're renting property. Well, when the landlord gets his up, guess who he passes it off to? The younger people who are trying to raise a family, buy everything that we know, electricity, gas, everything's going up, groceries. And so these young families are suffering as well because you're just stretched beyond. And the landlord is going to pass the increases on to those families. And so yes, I agree with the Social Security and the fixed income. They're okay. But the young people suffering too. Middle age, everybody's suffering. So I'd ask you to reconsider.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. David Matthews.
He's gonna say, he's out in the hall.
Let him speak for himself.
Don't you just want to say,
He didn't listen to you, so.
I know all you folks, and I have a great amount of respect for what you do and the time you put in. I understand. My question is, and that every entity in Navarro County has reduced their taxes. The schools, our school has reduced their tax rate 8 cents in order to alleviate some of the problems. With that reduction of 8 cents, we will still see an increase in funds because of the tax credit. And I realize this is just a public forum. There's probably not a whole lot you can do about it right now, but just realize that you may need to be on the same page with everybody else. Simply because if Corsicana, Dawson ISD, and other entities are reducing their tax rate and still getting more money, you will get more money too. I also understand fuel costs have more than doubled. Employee salaries have increased, or they need to increase. I understand all those things, but just consider maybe not quite as much raise.
Can I say something to
Yes,
that?
sir.
To that, just to make sure that you know where we are. We are doing the very same thing that Dawson is. You said do the same thing that we're doing. The court voted to do that. The rate is going down. Were you aware of that? No. I mean, yours will do that too, but I'm just saying the rate is going down.
No, that's what I follow.
From this notice, it doesn't look like.
What's in the public
No,
notice?
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think that's right.
This is not right. Our rate last year was 507.3. 6045, and this year it is the 5. 5045. So the rate is going down.
Yes. 04.
6073.
No.
It went from 6045 is what we're at this fiscal year until it changes. And we have dropped it to 0.5173. So it's almost 1/10 of a cent. But we have had to accept so much more revenue from the appraisals and the new industry and the new homes being built that we compensated the increase in revenue
Okay, that was.
by
my concern.
lowering the tax rate.
That was my concern. That's not what I've heard this morning.
Well, that's why I'm
And that-
putting it
that's
in
all-
layman's
that's all
terms
it
because I'm a
is.
layman.
No, is, you know, that's really.
The
the
rate
question.
is less,
The rate is lower than it was, almost 1/10 of a cent.
just like y'all's.
That's what everybody's concerned about, and most people I know.
Now, it is an increase because we had higher
Absolutely,
appraisal,
absolutely,
appraised value.
absolutely. I understand. Thank you.
And I'm not arguing the point, I'm just making sure that kind of cue made me wonder if you realized what we were doing.
No.
Okay,
Yes, we're required by the state of Texas to announce a tax increase if we take one dime more than we took last year. Actually, it's not a tax increase, it's a revenue increase, but we don't write the script, they do.
Right. I
So we're under the Austin's umbrella and they tell us what to do and this is what they've told us to do. And it's taken me a long time to put this in my finite mind on how this works.
Well, there was many things mentioned about raising it to the top rate. And that's what,
There's a thing called a rollback rate, which is an oxymoron of terms in my, here again, in my layman mind. But what it is has nothing to do with rolling anything back, okay? What it means is the amount of money that we're allowed to accept more than we accepted last year. And up until Senate Bill 2 came in, that was 8%, and we went every year, it was just standard operating procedure. Well, they brought it down to 3.5%. So now then we're limited to 3.5% more than we took last year. So we lower the tax rate to compensate, because where does this money go if we don't accept this money? This is my question, Mama, where does it go? The taxes that everybody's going to pay, if we don't accept it, where does it go? And so I go out and I argue my taxes with the appraisal district every year. And that's how I personally take care of my business. The tax rates are set by need. And so what we've done, we've lowered the tax rate from 0.6045 to 0.5173 to compensate for the amount of revenue generated by new business and new $1 million homes at the lake and all these different things that come in that we don't control, but it's like your cows having calves. Okay, you got to have more pasture, you've got to have more water, you got to have more hay, and that's what's happening when they divide up this property and they start building $1 million homes on it, and that revenue comes in, it's in our lap. And so what we do, we lower the tax rate to compensate for that new revenue that we didn't have last year, because there's over $1 billion of new taxable assets in this county this year that wasn't here last year. What do you do about that? Give it to them?
I think this explanation will solve a lot of the problems.
Well,
Yeah, because this thing,
That
this Chris, what you gave me, where'd it come from?
came up the state's website.
Well, there's your problem.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
yeah, when I started hearing these things, I'm going, time out. I said, this is not it at all. And me and Chris talked on the phone last week and I said, I don't know what you're looking at. Because I knew what I saw and it was not this. So I don't know what happened.
Okay, move on. Pam, event, is that correct?
Yes, me.
All right, good, thank you.
Yes. I work 2 jobs. I just want to know what it's gonna cost me to live in Navarro County. That's what we all want to know, basically, is what it's gonna cost us in increased tax or decreased tax. And that, we seen several articles about y'all gonna get 18 extra %. We wanna know where it's going. I'm serious. That's all I want to say.
Thank
Well,
you.
that's when something from the state gets misconstrued
Yes, sir.
and then applied and put in the paper and telephone calls are made and you guys all show up.
Yes, sir. That's what
See?
we hear.
It's not a
But the way it works. Sandy, is it Sutter? Oh, good. I pronounced it right. Right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Sandy. I'm fairly new to the area. We bought land here in 2018 out in Streatham. We just moved the house in this year. I was very concerned when I started seeing all the information on property taxes going up. I appreciate your input. It makes more sense, although I haven't had a chance to really research it and do a lot of investigating on my own. I would like to say that as a business person, I handled budgets for over 20 years in my career. I'm currently retired, and we had to make things work. You have to, you can't go with status quo. You have to look at what can you do to be creative, how can you get more bang for the buck, and I think that as a county, as a government, that we need to be more like running a business, because it's our money that we have to cut back on how many trips we make to town. What we eat, we don't eat as many steaks, we're hammered. I think, and I think most people will agree with me, you can't go with the status quo in times like today. Hopefully in a couple of years, things are gonna turn around, people are gonna be more prosperous, but in this next few years, you can make or break people. I don't have money to go out and spend supporting the small businesses in town like I would like to. You can't support these small businesses, they're going under. Your tax revenue goes down. So, think about the big picture. You're gonna support more homeless people if the rent increases. I mean, it's a cost benefit. It's just, it's a vicious cycle. So think seriously about what we do. That's my request.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amy, Joss.
It's all been said. I
Oh,
just oppose it.
All right, thank you. Cynthia Watkins.
Come on,
That's
talk
all
to
you're
us.
gonna say? Come on, Cynthia.
You want me to say, you want me to say, okay. I think what I don't understand. It's not 18.5. What is it going? You can't say?
Thank you. Cynthia. I'd like to know too.
I can ask the auditor to tell us what, or Mike, what's it going for?
What's your question?
If it's not going up to 18.5%, what is it gonna be?
Four, isn't it?
3.5% is the voter approval tax rate, right?
I think so.
So that
So we're gonna ask him.
It's going up 3.5%, plus they are getting more money because of the increased values.
Okay, but that increased value, I was told in the meeting that has nothing to do with it. They can raise it.
Are you talking about the appraisal district?
Yeah.
They're a separate entity from us.
Okay, but we were talking about that one day and you said, like 100,000 and then it wouldn't affect what you pay. That's what I just don't understand.
Okay. One of the things I'd like to tell you all about appraisal district, that is basically a state office. They run the show. Now, at one point in time, Commissioners Court ran the pricing of houses and, assessments and so on. Thank goodness that went away. But anyway, one of the reasons the appraisal district continues to increase appraisals and the way they work is they do approximately a third of properties every year. So they're going to hit your property year after next, that sort of thing. Okay. The reason they do that, because the state has them do that because of school taxes, okay? Because the state has to help schools and in fact, they should be, providing a total to me because they raise a lot of money. But those appraisals go up. Mine went up too. Mine went up $130,000. All I did is had my house painted. Duh.
I didn't even do that. Mine went up.
Yeah, Yeah, so I know what you're, what y'all are feeling big time. But regardless, that's still, where it all comes from is state of Texas, Austin. If I were y'all, we've got a representative, and we've got a senator, and I would absolutely be on their case. Okay? Just
Okay, and so what else I'm scared about is because I'm a teacher also, they don't give increases.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't had one number for 15 years, and then you can't collect social security because that is double dipping.
Well, and the other thing is, if you have an increase and you want to protest it, all you gotta do is sign up, Thomas.
Just, I'm asking to be recognized again when appropriate, if you're okay with that, Judge.
Sure. You have something you want to say?
I don't know if she's going.
Oh, I thought it might relate to what she's talking about.
Just two things real quick, Judge.
Okay.
One, if there is so much confusion between the rate,
Mhm.
then would it be, if there is, and there's not for me, by the way, I agree with you, and I've known what you're saying, I still have a big issue. But if there's so much confusion, I don't think it'd be too much to ask to table the motion. Y'all can do this, have a special budget hearing, okay, an additional one to clear the air. So that's an ask. But second of all, what I said from the beginning is still true, which is y'all are allowed to bring in 3.5% more dollars a year. Any more than that, the state forces you to lower the rate. The rates that you're lowering, you're forced to do it by the state. It's not a volunteer, y'all are choosing to lower it. You're being forced to. My issue is that you're taking the full 3.5% raise. My ask is that you not take the full 3.5% that you're allowed. Take something less than that, and I think everybody would be super happy and go home. So those are my two.
Thank you.
I think one of the misunderstandings this paper is that it's comparing what we're asking for to what the new revenue rate is, not to what our rate is at the moment. That's what it's comparing it to. If you notice, it's comparing it to the 0.4922, which is the no new revenue rate, comparing it to the 5173, which is the voter approval rate. And that's the differences of the percent of differences of increases. So this could very well be right, but it's just not talking about the same thing that we talk about here.
Hey, Commissioner Olson.
Yes.
If I could,
Because it says,
this, and that's what I spoke about, is this 20, in the 21 column,
Uh-huh.
it puts 4922.
Uh-huh.
That was the county only rate last year.
yes,
And then the 0.5173, y'all told me,
combined.
that's the combined one.
Okay.
So what I was saying is that this is apples and oranges.
It is.
But as far as we know, this is what's getting voted on for the county only. And so what I was asking was, let's get this clarified where we know, where we have apples and apples. And so that's why I asked that we table this so that everybody can see what apples to apples is. And then if it is not 18.5%, then we know what that number is, right? That's what I would like to see so that we're all on the same page. That makes a lot of this confusion go away, right? Because when something is on the public notice, that is what's considered to be true, and we have to treat it as true, right? And so let's just get completely accurate information on the public notice one way or the other, and then we can proceed forward.
Well, Terry, correct me if I'm wrong. 0.4922 was the general fund tax rate for last year.
That's correct.
The new one we are proposing is 0.4123. No,
The new one for the general fund for the voter approval rate is 0.4226. Which is less than the 0.4922.
0.4226, which is lower than it was last year from the 0.4922.
Yes.
Okay,
And the 5173 is the total, right?
that's
It's
right.
the total.
It's a
So it's
combined.
comparing it to what just the county was to the total was.
So that's where the numbers got skewed, and I would be mad too if I saw that. But I don't get the Course County newspapers. I didn't see it, and I didn't read it. I just knew what went on in here.
Can I ask
Yes,
you a
ma'am.
question? If there is so much confusion
confusion. Even what y'all are, you're asking, what is it? Why can't you just put this off? It's almost like y'all made up your minds. I've never been to one of these.
We haven't made up our minds to do anything yet.
Well, it sounded like in the very beginning that these people could express their opinion,
Mhm.
but it wasn't gonna change anything.
No.
Is that
It
right?
come from us.
No.
Okay, it sounds like y'all are even. all
You've
on
got
the
us
same
confused with
page.
Austin.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I
They're
think
the-
the,
they're the
re- I
ones who
think,
don't
I
listen.
think the reason for all the confusion is what's been put in the paper and what's on Facebook. It's, I'm not gonna say, I won't say it's wrong, but it's not all fact based. And that's the reason for the confusion. If you think your taxes, I'm assuming most of y'all came in here thinking your taxes were getting raised 18 points, 18%. That's not true. That's not
what's in
true.
the public notice.
I'm just saying, that's.
And rightfully so,
that's where
when
the
you think
confusion is
that.
from.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else listed to speak?
That's it.
I want to say one other thing, because so many
Sure.
people ask where their.
Get
where
your
their-
microphone.
Oh, I let mine come up.
Trust me.
Is this better?
Yes.
So many people ask where their money goes. And if I had a week, I would tell you, but I don't. So I'm just gonna tell you a little bit of it. It's not gonna do anything to make you matter, but I'm gonna let you know anyway. Our money, the reason, one of the biggest problems we have is that other taxing entities don't have, is we have a jail. And it's full. And everybody that's over there, you're paying for their clothing, their health care, their mental health, their food. God forbid they have AIDS or get pregnant, you're paying for all that too. And we have contracts with people who feed them and clothe them and do all these things for them at a certain number. But every time that number goes up, so does that price. And every time that number goes up, so does that price. And now we want to get them out of there and gone, but the state won't take them. The prison's full. So they're sitting over here on our dime all day and all night, and you're taking care of them like they're your kid. If you want to get mad about something, get mad about that, because that's where 68% of your tax dollars, they go, if it has anything to do with keeping bad people in jail, and I'm talking about judges, probation, JPs, jailers, all that, if anything to do with law enforcement, keeping them in jail, 68% of your dollars go right over there and in this building right here. That's what you ought to be mad about.
So how do we fix that? I mean,
Well, I'd love
that's
to
gonna be
answer
an
that.
ongoing
I'd love to answer it, but I'm being
situation.
recorded. I mean, I got my own personal opinion. I'm just telling you, that's where your tax dollars go. And it's, when you have that in your budget, it's hard to set up here, because we set up here for all day, daylight till dark, for a month, agonizing over these decisions. We want to do right for y'all. We want to do right for our employees, but we also got to go by the guidelines that the state's given us. And when they say, this is what you're going to do now, you're going to give them this and this and this, they don't send no money with it. They just say, this is what you're going to do. They don't tell us how to pay for it. They just say, this is what you're going to do. And we have to, we have no choice. So that's what ought to make you mad. And I don't know what the answer is, Mark. I wish I did.
Electric chair.
Like I said, I can't say it on
I
board,
mean, that's
but that's the deal. And all that is unknown. It's hard to set up here and do your budget when you don't know how many people's gonna be over there 6 months from now. You don't know how many of them's gonna be sick. You don't know how many of them have to go to the hospital. You don't know any of these things. So every time we do a budget session, when we're done with it, it's a risk. We don't know. We don't know if it'll come out or not. It depends on what happens. And not to mention, I'm making all this sound like it's all just across the street. It's not. I'd say 98% of the people that go through those doors over there are indigent. So you're paying for their attorneys too, which is an astronomical fee. What we pay in this county for court-appointed attorneys is ridiculous. And if I sat here and spewed the numbers out here to y'all would be shocked. But I'm just telling you, if you want to think about the big picture, the real big picture is 68% of your tax dollars go to fat people in jail. And that's the bottom line.
$978,000 is what we pay for court-appointed attorneys. So
How much? How much?
$978,000. So if they come rob your house, you also are you're gonna pay for their
Pay
attorney.
defendant, $1 million a year.
Yeah.
We got a courthouse and we got a courtyard and a road. What's the big deal?
And the rest, the other thing I want to tell you is, I'm only saying this because so many people ask where their money goes. We also, the voters of Navarro County voted to restore this courthouse. We still owe on that. It didn't get paid for, we owe on that. And we either owe 11 million for 7 years or 7 million for 11 years, I can't remember. And we lost the floor, so we had to buy another building to put probation in. So if you want to know where all your money goes, this ain't where all of it goes, this is where a whole bunch of it goes. So we got about 30% left to run the government on, because the rest of it goes to keep bad people in jail. And I mean, and you, sir, you were mentioning your roads earlier. Road and bridge tax is a completely separate deal from what we're discussing here today. That rate's not going up in decades.
It went down.
So what can we expect, right? So obviously there's a problem. So can we have expectations to be able to determine what we're going to be looking at future wise? So if there's a problem, have you guys come up with a scenario to be able to help the residents understand? And I think that's the confusion.
Well, you're exactly right.
And
Most residents do not understand.
Right.
And the reason I know that is because before I got up here, I didn't understand it either. And every year that I'm here, I found out more and more and more.
Right.
And it's just a waste that we
Right.
throw all that money to these bad people.
So what can we expect tax wise?
I'm not gonna sit up here and I can't stand up here and go toe to toe with anybody on
Right.
taxes. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Are we
Uh,
experiencing a tax increase? Is the county going to increase rates?
The tax rate, the county tax rate went down.
Okay,
More money will be realized because of the appraisals.
okay,
A lot of what's being said in there is true,
okay.
but a lot of, there's also a lot of misinformation.
Right, and that's, I think, what we're trying to clarify, just clarification, so we all understand, we're not running around town upset and mad at something that's not true.
I understand.
So I think that's what.
You're right.
Is it that money? Okay, you said the increase in the appraisal. Is it the high money that they came up with, or the money in the, like the little, how much it's gone up in that little box? Like, say 50,000, 60,000, but your house is appraised at 400,000.
I mean, I don't know. My property went up crazy money too. And like I said, I can't stand up there and answer all that. I'm more of a talk to you on the road, side of the road kind of guy. But I'm just telling you, what I wanted to bring to your attention is so many people want to know where their money goes. That's where it goes. Anyway, I'll talk my I'm sorry.
I know I'm not supposed to be talking, but when you start talking about 68% go to law enforcement or go to that jail, I am your guy you can talk to about that, because I'm very proud of my track record as your sheriff and what I've done to hold down the cost. So I can elaborate a little bit to that, because I don't want you leaving here saying, if it weren't for that sheriff and 68%, all this wouldn't be happening. So let's expand on that.
I did not make it that way.
Yeah, let me expand on that just a little bit. And I know I'm not supposed to be up there doing that, but I feel my toes got mashed a little. So,
I didn't mean it.
so I'm gonna come out from under that bus. Is first, what he said is accurate to the point of there's only one jail in Navarro County. We gotta catch it all. That means anybody that gets arrested by any agency, they come to us. And nobody is paying anything for that service other than you, the taxpayers. That means any other police agency, Richland, Corsicana, DPS, Dawson, any place that's got a law enforcement agency, they're housing their prisoners there in Navarro County Jail for free.
The first county residents also pay that, or just county residents?
The police agencies that are housing prisoners in that jail, no one is paying anything except the county taxes.
People do not have to pay the taxes.
You are
Through your
correct.
county taxes, through your county taxes, okay? So that's the first thing. Second is, Jason is exactly right about the capacity of that jail, the amount of prisoners that are in there. But there's a whole lot of things that go into that as well. That means that you got 3 courts, not including the JP courts. You got a whole floor full of prosecutors up here on the 3rd floor of this facility. And
they can only stay there until they go through trial, go through a police situation, whatever the case may be. That's not controlled by me or anyone else across that street. That means you got to cut the lights on to move. If the thing is working properly, as people are coming in that door, they got to be going out on the other way. Whether they're convicted, whether they take a plea, whatever the case is dismissed, whatever the case may be, if you don't, you're going to be overpopulated. You know what we are? Overpopulated. As far as the cost, when I accepted the job of sheriff, I think the cost was $3 a meal to feed inmates. 10 years later, you know what your cost is today, folks? $1. $1 a meal. You can't eat on $1 a meal, but those inmates are. We've negotiated it to a point to where it meets all the elements of a nutritional for those inmates, and we're feeding them. I don't think that's excessive.
Like
$1 a
50
meal.
cents be better.
I don't think that's excessive.
You're sitting in jail. I don't see it being an easy time.
Well, I can address that as well. There's an individual by the name of William Wayne Justice. And William Wayne Justice did a lot of things on behalf of inmates that are detrimental to what we as taxpaying citizens, and I want you to understand that, and I'm gonna speak for these guys here. Each and every one of us pay taxes as well. I don't get an opportunity to make decisions on their behalf. I can have some input in what we need or whatever I feel like could be beneficial to the citizens of the county that I serve, but I pay taxes as well. I engage my employees. In fact, I did so this morning in a command staff meeting to tell my people, listen, you pay taxes as well. The decisions I make on behalf of the county, they affect you too, because you're paying taxes. So I do agree. A big line item of your money is being spent toward law enforcement.
Why do those other towns, like the surrounding towns, like you said, not paying any money? Why?
Because I don't have any control over it. I can make the request, but I don't have the authority to make them pay.
Basically, the state says Navarro County has a jail. Navarro County will run the jail, do the best they can, will tax the county for that cost, and the cities don't have to have a jail. City of Corsicana has 3 cells, okay? I think they're full of bicycles, Chris, are they? Well, anyway, they're around, I've seen them, run by them. That's when they built that center, they had a, momentary jail, we'll call it that. But then at some point in time, the state said, thou shalt not have a jail. Okay, the county shall have that jail and everybody pays for it. That's just the way it
And
is.
what the sheriff said is true. He's gone out several times and found companies to come in and provide services over at that jail. It's much less than what we used to pay in the past. And so if I stepped on his toes,
I'd like to know is how do we make those inmates earn their keep?
As in what?
As in maybe work or do.
We do have trustee programs there. Every bit of the laundry operations for the nearly 300 inmates in that facility are done by inmates. The kitchen facility is run by inmates with the supervision of a correctional officer. We have farm programs as we speak today. There are inmates out at 2 different operations in the county. They're unloading hay, both large square bales, 3x3x8. They're using machinery to do so, and they're hand delivering square bale hay to another farm, which is, so everything we do is with the support of the inmates. We run those trustee programs, but again, I go back to William Wayne Justice. If an inmate says, I don't want to work, we cannot make them work. And they have civil rights, and that's where civil rights violations spins up lawsuits, and you find yourself at 1100 Commerce. I'm very proud of my track record to this point in time, and I don't want to let that wheel run by making that other statement and the wheel running off today, but we're very blessed and fortunate to have command staff over there that they're doing everything they can to ensure that we don't get ourselves in a civil liability, because that's right to check. I recently found out something that, again, you may not even care to hear, but I have a relationship with Texas Department of Corrections, and as you well know, or criminal justice, and they're not even being able to work those inmates at TDCJ now in the field. We're used to see them out and having the farm crews out in the field unless they volunteer to do so. They can't make them go out, and those are convicted individuals. And again, convicted individuals' rights compared to people that have been accused. We have a mixture of both in that facility over there. We have people that are convicted, waiting to go to Texas Department of Criminal Justice, and we have people that have not been. One thing that I want to correct is, and it's not to step on Jason's toes, when a person goes through that system over there and they've gone through the courts, if they're convicted to Texas Department of Criminal Justice, as he said, we can't send that person day one. We got to wait on them to get an opening. We send paperwork. We make them what they call paper ready. That means they're ready to come to you. Let us know when we can deliver them, and we do haul them ourselves to that facility, which speeds up the process. The only thing that's different is they have to pay us. Once that person's paper ready and that paperwork's gone to that facility, TDCJ has to compensate us for that. So.
Yes, sir.
Judge, may I address Sheriff Tanner?
You may.
Sheriff, what's the capacity of the jail and what are you standing at?
Absolutely, maximum capacity is 300. And I believe the number this morning was 254. 300 includes every separation cell or disciplinary cell. That means every medical cell. That means every holding cell. And that means every housing cell. Now, if you want to start getting down to capacities, holding A will hold 10, holding B will hold 10, detox will hold 10. So you take 30 off of the 300 right there, brings you to 270. We're at 253. And your pastor at church, whenever you go and the pastor says, when we reach 80% capacity, we need to be expanding the building. You do the math and tell me what we're at capacity.
And another question is, what is the range on how long it takes to get inmate paper ready to be transferred?
Once they get through the court.
Yeah, what's that time frame?
It's a very short time frame. Once they get to the court, the issue is getting them from there to the court. We've got people over there that have been in that facility over a year waiting to go to court.
How does the county get reimbursed for all of the expenses for every city, of course, Canada, Dawson, all of these cities, their inmates in the county jail, and the county's paying 100%, county taxpayers, but not the cities?
I can take that, Judge, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Anything that's a Class B misdemeanor and above, it is the state or county's responsibility to accept them, no matter who arrests them. The only thing that the court has any say on is Class C misdemeanors. That means a hot check, that means a traffic citation that went to arrest because a person didn't pay their deal. Class C misdemeanors, that's the only thing that the court has a say on. And if the court decides to say, yes, we're going to charge you to house your prisoners, they can do so on only that charge. But we also have the capability of saying, let me address that too. We also have the ability to say, we're not going to hold Class C prisoners because of our capacity. And that's the operational, that's where we are today. We're not holding Class C prisoners unless it's an assault at this point, or public intoxication. And those are situations where it becomes a public safety issue.
And the only money that we get to do these things with is tax money. We can't raise water rates or trash rates or none of that. We don't do that. That's all we get.
Yes,
Or
sir.
we can't sell water.
Turn it back.
Yes.
Judge, may I address in the person panel?
Yes, sir.
Names.
Mic back over there.
I'm
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the people outside won't be able to hear you. We don't have that. Very good.
Name's Danny Smith. On what Chris has been and what the people have said, I am asking, would y'all consider today to take a step back, clarify everything with the people, because there's confusion on our end. Y'all have your ducks in a row. This has been confusing. You're right. But for the people that aren't in this room, clarify. Because the way it looks out there, all your heads are on a chopping block. Why? Because of miscommunication. What hasn't been said has been said. So I'm asking, save us, save yourselves, step back, table it, come out with a public announcement, give the people what they want, and show them what it is. That's all you have to do. Fix your problem. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
May I ask one question, and I didn't sign
Yes,
up?
go ahead.
There's been a lot of conversation, just like that young man just said, about the announcement, the notice, if you will. I myself have not laid eyes on it, but as a taxpaying citizen, my question
This is
is,
something I got from the state.
is that right?
Yeah.
Is that accurate? That's all I want to know. Is that,
Obviously, it's
is
not.
that notice right there, is it, as it was posted, whether it was posted here at the courthouse, whether it was sent out by mail, whether it went to the Daily Sun and they printed it, is that notice accurate?
It's a comptroller's form. It says Navarro County on it, and it gives the rates. So I mean, from what is possible to find, this is what I have found. That's our exact question. Yeah.
That's all I'm
And
asking.
if it's incorrect,
If it's incorrect.
let's table it, put correct information on it, come back, and we're all on the same page.
And it could be accurate and not understood. But we just got this as well. I mean,
Right.
We just, it's handed to us on this number.
Yeah.
Mr. Capehart,
That's all I'm asking.
Chris, ask Mr. Capehart. He's.
Ron Capehart.
Ron, you want to say something too?
I'm here to answer any questions y'all may have. I know that notice is confusing. If you have questions about that, thank your state representative. There's one. We go to classes throughout the year to try to understand the changes that they make. And unfortunately, they put such a strict timeline on how the budget process works, when the rates can be calculated, so that you can have the public hearing for the time that they have to be approved in order for the tax bills to go out. They compressed that timeline so short that when you have issues and miscommunications, they put a website up this year on text.gov. You can go to the county, shows you each of the entities on there. That information, pull up your property. It'll show you what your taxes are going to do under each of those. The proposed rate and the revenue rate, show the previous rates and all those things as those entities are populated. That's new this year, so I'm sure there may be some kinks in that system. That was another mandate, another unfunded mandate that the state put on everybody this year. Texas stuff, that's what it is.
Okay, I think that's enough, or since no one else wants to speak. Gentlemen, what do y'all want to do?
This needs corrected.
I agree.
Well, either correct it again or explain it. I'm not sure it's wrong. We just have to know that it's not being misunderstood.
Well, it needs to be made a whole lot simpler so anybody can understand it. Because obviously Chris, who's a smart guy,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
you know, interpreted it different than what, you know.
Because that's what it says.
But it's not accurate. So, to what everybody, you know, needs to know.
And just one more clarification that 100% of your taxes does not go to Bridge and Road. The Bridge and Road rate is 0.0875 per $100, which 0.0875 is the Bridge and Road rate that actually goes toward fixing the roads. The rest of it, this guy has a place for it, most of it.
So that rate is applied to the appraised value.
Yes, sir.
Appraised value per $100.
Yes, sir.
So you have an increase in revenue from either the rate or the number that you apply that rate to.
So
I think that's part of the confusion is we're the revenue coming in and the rate changes are getting confused.
yes, sir, because on a $1 million home, I don't know how many of y'all have one of those. I get around $260 a year to fix the road with. To give you a comparison over the way it works.
And that's with the $8 a month I get charged on my water bill for.
Ma'am, we're not in the city.
That's our point. That's the point. We don't have these fees.
We're going to separate church and state here. The city of Corsicana is different from the county. Number one, cities are sovereign. That's in my mind, in my layman's mind, cities are sovereign. They get to do what they want to do. If they do something they can't do, they'll be told that, but they do anything they want to do. We do exactly what the legislature tells us to do, no more, no less. And when they send out a decree, and when they get together at Austin every 2 years and they sneeze, we catch a cold because something's coming down the pike that has shall in it. And that word shall is prophetic. And when they send something to us that says shall in it, it's fixing to happen. But it doesn't mean any money's following it. And so these, what we call, and this is a curse word to me, unfunded mandates. Okay, and that's when Austin gets to thinking. And every time they get to thinking, it costs us money because they'll send these decrees out that says shall in front of it. And that's why God used it in the 10 Commandments. Because it was expressly meant, this is should happen, this is gonna happen. Okay, and when they say shall happen, then these things like the Sandra Bland Act, read up on that and see what it cost us on that. The court-appointed attorneys, all of the archiving of public records that we have to perpetually keep. And we need storage. Okay, and it's part of where the money goes. I said, if it's bad right now, look at it in 20 years when we have to perpetually keep all of these records physically. I mean, any court papers, they have to be kept in storage and available. And so there's lots of things that goes on behind the curtain that since I've been here, I've learned that it takes to operate the business. Besides just when you're going to pave my road, you know, and I don't know, I've learned because I know exactly how you feel because I used to sit out there and I came to these things long before I was elected. And I just kind of look sometimes like a calf looking at a new gate on things that went on up here, like I see a lot of y'all. But after I got in here and I got to learning things, I kind of went, oh, I see now that we are bound by Austin on most of the things that, most of the expenses that we have here, and it ain't getting any cheaper. And I pay taxes too, and I go out and I fight with them out at the appraisal district every year, and that's how I get my taxes lowered. Because these rates at the cities and the schools and the college, they're gonna get it. So I try to get my appraisal rate as low as I can. That way these rates don't affect me near as much. And I'm sorry I'm venting, but I'm just a guy who messed around and got elected. And so here we are.
Yeah, Jamie.
I just wanted to say, when we came, I had no idea what was gonna happen here. And I honestly thought there would be a discourse between the citizens and this group of county commissioners. And I appreciate that you finally spoke. Because what was happening was all these people were walking up there and expressing themselves. But it was like y'all had taken an oath that we're not saying a word. And I appreciated that you started the discussion.
And I can explain that to some degree. Before every commissioner report meeting, we have what we call public comments. Before every meeting. And it is just for someone to comment. It's not for us to come back and make decisions or anything that day. So we may have been in a regular commissioner's court mindset instead of a public hearing mindset, honestly. I apologize if we seem that way.
Yes, ma'am.
I've got a question. I've always wondered about this. Really didn't have too much to do with this. But on the Navarro College, why does Navarro County have to pay a part of the expenses? Are they a business to charge the tuition to the kids? Why are we paying for the college?
That came about long before all of our times to be here.
I researched that. And in 1949, when the college was formed, the citizens of Navarro County voted to fund Navarro Junior College to get it off the ground. The only way to remove that is to get a petition with 10% of the people that voted in the last election sent to the Secretary of State to get it put on the ballot to vote it off.
That gotta be special worded.
That's right. It has to be worded right, but I'm telling you, President Trump, President Biden, Governor Abbott can't take this off our taxes. That's the only way to get it done.
The issue there, though, is the only campus was Corsicana. Now you're funding Midlothian, Fairfield, Mahia. Your Corsicana's paying that. Those people that live there are not paying pennies in taxes.
Ron?
Yeah, just point of clarification on a couple of things on that. Yes, they're a public institution, just like most of the other community colleges in our community college system around the state. They're funded by the local governments where they sit. Sheriff Tanner is correct, and it's a point of contention, but the college has tried for years to get on the ballot for the other counties that we serve in order to generate tax revenue from them. But the tax revenue that the college generates is only a small portion of their budget because they do collect tuition fees and all of those things to help run their facility. The other thing I will point out, I know we've talked a lot about the appraisals today and about the rising appraisals, and one nasty little secret that Austin doesn't like to tell you about is that they go in and audit. They do what we call a property value study on the school districts, and they audit the appraisals. And if they don't think the appraisals are high enough, they will go back and tell the appraiser, you're not high enough, and this school is going to lose funding until you get your rates up. So there again, talk to Austin, because yes, the appraisals are going up, properties or values are going up, but they also get audited by the state. And if the state tells them that they're not high enough, they have to raise their rates or the school district loses state funding.
Thank you. All right. Gentlemen, what we're gonna do? Table it?
Judge, I think this needs to be fixed, and a public notice, a true public notice needs to be issued so that me as a citizen and you as a citizen see the same thing.
All right, need a motion.
Make a motion to table.
Motion to table made by Commissioner Perry,
I second.
seconded by Commissioner Moore. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank y'all.
Well,
Did I say something?
we're not through yet. I don't know. We're not through.
Council?
Yeah.
Just so y'all need somebody or some face, I'm it. If there's anything, if we've got something wrong or erroneously that got published in here, put my face and name on it. I'm not the start and finish of it, but I'm as responsible as anybody. And these guys rely on what they do, and I rely on what the state gives us to do as far as SB2 websites. And we've got to figure out how to get this information plugged in and get it translated and get it out to you. And how do you know? They figured something out for that too. They came up with texas.gov/property rates, property taxes. You can go on there and look as this information is entered into the system, and you can look for that. Those little goofy postcards that they send out every year. That's what that information tells you, where to get that. And as it is added, okay? I don't want these guys to stand up here, me be in the room and not take my pound of my whatever, okay? Or my responsibility. Let's just say I'm responsible. If there's anything erroneous, then we'll get it straightened out. And the information that they have quoted you in here is absolutely correct. It's a breakdown. What I'm understanding here, that rate that you're talking about, 4922, that's last year's M&O rate against the total aggregate cumulative total of all the rates together, which road and bridge, flood, M&O and INS rates added together. Okay, so yeah, there's disparity in there. Yeah, is it wrong? Yeah, and will it change? Yeah, go down. Pretty sure math says that, but the information that they gave you, 4922 is a total of probably M&O and debt, and it was compared to a total rate, it sounds like, in there. And those two numbers were the actual number that they told me. I don't have that right in front of me, but it was full. You write it down, 4226, so it is gonna be a lesson. Okay, and if you need a face for it and a scapegoat, I'm your dad. You're in. Okay, so
I have a quick.
I'm not denying, you know, I don't want anybody to go without taking responsibility. And I'm apparently the last to stand up. I'm standing up, here I am.
For those of us who have businesses or real estate investment property, we get a form in the mail, and I don't recall if it comes from the county or where it comes from. And it wants you to write
I'm
down
from the
what
appraisal
your,
district, I think. what you're going.
okay, once you write down what your revenues are, or what's your income from the property, or
Rendition.
whatever, yeah. So that, for me, goes right in the trash, but like, where would it go if somebody actually fills that out? What, you
Well, let
know?
me just,
I mean.
Ron and I ain't the ones to do that. Well, let me tell you what that costs you over at the tax office, 10% every year. If you don't fill that rendition out by law, by tax code, then you're taking an opportunity to give them take the opportunity to charge you 10% on penalty on the value or your levy of that by not sending them. And if they come in here, they pick a random number, they send you something that they feel like maybe accurate, so. And it's like, well, we figure that's gonna be $2,000. And they don't hear from you for 3 years. They hit you with those penalties, and then they turn around and they say you want for 10,000. We're gonna try to get your attention, you know, try to get, not you personally, in general, that's the way, you know, well, maybe we're low.
So you mean.
And then they turn around and then that you're stuck with that because you haven't, you know, that hasn't been responded to. There's a check and balance, and there's always an opportunity for the taxpayers to respond.
So you're saying that that revenue or whatever rent you get that you write down on this form, they're somehow calculating what your property is worth?
With your business.
Yeah.
Ron speaks to that.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
Well, is that personal property?
No, she's not talking about personal property.
She's talking about.
No. No, this is on rental property.
Yeah, rental or furniture. Yeah, yeah. So they wanna know
And,
what your revenue
and
is.
if you don't fill out those renditions and send them in, like Mike says, the appraisal district is gonna make their best effort to guess, then they're gonna send you a tax bill on that. And then if you don't pay that tax, then it's gonna sit there and it's gonna go delinquent, and then it comes to me. And then you get a visit from me and a knock on the door to say, hey, you've got these taxes. Whereas if you had sent that rendition in the first place, number one, you get to set those values, and unless you're just egregiously low, they're not gonna challenge you. And then you don't get a visit from me.
So you're saying the property taxes, that affects the actual property tax value of that rental property, of that one property?
Not the real property. It doesn't affect the real property. It may affect the rental income from that property.
Oh, I understand that.
They're correlating that to your
Yeah, I
income
like-
tax.
Yeah, well, I mean, I already paid.
They're sharing information.
Exactly. Well, I already share that information on my tax return, so I don't know why I have to do it again.
Exactly.
Yep. Anyway, okay. So
Well, and that may also, having not seen the form, it could also be a form from the comptroller's office
Yeah,
for franchise tax.
no, it's not franchise tax, but it doesn't say like you are required by law to return this or you're gonna be in trouble, you know?
Okay, then that's
Yeah,
not.
that's just a nosy stuff. Yeah.
Okay. We had the vote to table the tax rate. Yeah. Hearing on tax rate, yeah. So if we're gonna go in order down, number 5 is public hearing on fiscal year 2022-23 budget. I'll open that up for right now. Anybody want to say anything? You haven't seen it probably. It's in a book that thick. You're welcome to look at it. Anything, anybody want to speak on the budget? Gentlemen, what do we want to do on that budget? The next item, number 6, consideration approving the adoption of fiscal year 2022-2023 budget.
Is there any possible way that tabling the tax rate will affect the budget
Yes, it will, but you can adopt the budget as is and then amend the budget once you adopt your tax rate.
Okay.
But by the guidelines, we have to. 'Cause we're
Yeah, I'm
We're on a
clarifying
very
this.
time constraint now.
I'm clarifying this for everybody here.
We'll have to amend the budget if y'all change the tax rate.
Okay, we need a motion then on item number 6, approving the adoption of the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget.
I move that we approve the adoption of the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget.
Are you gonna put the in consideration of,
In consideration of the tax rate.
this needs to be readjusted?
Yes, in case the budget has to be adjusted.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Moore, seconded by Commissioner Grant. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No,
Got a no on the end? Okay, let's put that in here.
I think we need a roll call on that, Judge.
Yeah, you're right. Commissioner Grant, your vote, please.
Yes.
Commissioner Perry,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Olson.
no. And then Joe,
I vote yeah. Motion carries. Let's go with number, we're gonna skip, is that right, number 8?
You just have to scratch it, scratch it.
Just skip it for now. Okay. And then the final one on here is item number 9, which is consideration of approving the Navarro County Sheriff's Office to upgrade internet speed. I need more speed over there?
Yes, Judge.
We hadn't until recently.
Because of the difference in the way that the other offices in the building are requiring us to submit cases to them. The
What other
district
office?
attorney's office is requiring us to use a platform to upload cases to. It has severely hindered speed.
Can I,
And our
I'm
actions,
sorry to
yes.
interrupt, but you know, I can't hardly be still is historically for 33 years I've been at the sheriff's office, we've hand walked cases over to the district attorney's office and deliver them in person. Now the district attorney has decided that's no longer that can't be done. They have to be electronically transferred to the district attorney's office. And our internet capability will not allow for us to do that in a timely manner to get that to them. So in trying to troubleshoot to see what the issue is, we've determined that we have the slowest internet in the county at the correctional facility. Now, I'm sorry.
So
I
we're
wanted to pour a little foundation.
So because of that reason, and to make our office more efficient, we would like for y'all to up our internet rate from the 50 megabytes to 150 megabytes.
There a projection of cost?
There is. The cost that we're paying right now is roughly $590.85 a month for the 15 megabytes. If we go to 100 megabytes, it's $866 a month. If we go to 150, it's $886 a month. So the most practical way for selection would be the 886, the 150 megabytes. There's no additional incur of cost or anything that transpires. The fiber's there. All they've got to do is bring either a new router or whatever, and that's with that cost. There's no additional fees cost.
Any discussion on this, gentlemen? I would ask for a motion, please.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Navarro County Sheriff's Office to upgrade internet speed. Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Grant, seconded by Commissioner Perry. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. But we need one more motion, gentlemen.
Well, now y'all see the things that pop up along the way, such as this expense right here. We just kind of went, wow, we didn't know we needed that. Well, now here we are. spending money on it. So it's part of the plan.
So does that imply that the budget will have to be modified to take this into account?
It's come out of a line item they have already.
Did we scratch number 8?
Yep. We're scratched. We just need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion made by Commissioner Grant, seconded by Commissioner Perry. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank y'all for coming.
Appreciate it, everybody.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
For $800, I'll come up here and run him things up. That's pretty new. I'm not gonna say I'll be very fast, but outside of alley bumps. So you just can't imagine. $300 for more. That's recent taxes or what they are.
Now that you voted on the budget,
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all.
now that you voted on the budget, what is the budget? Bottom line.
I had to ask her for what the final.
Sherry,
I'll share it later next time.
how are
Appreciate you coming.
Really burns me up.
That's what I'm saying.
And now that he's down there, in Texas, well, and that, we have said all along that they notice in the language that the state requires, they haven't tried out that and it starts reading it up.
And that's where.
And start giving us some relief. Look, let me talk. They don't. You need to come every time.